when you explain things, you learn it better so that your technical experience is going to be better. And then again, back to the whole working with other people. That's great. Okay, anyone else? Okay. Oh, Joel, food manufacturing, which you already touched on. Yeah, so the whole idea of are you using the word food manufacturing like working in a kitchen? Or do you mean really food manufacturing, working at Lay's in the production line? I don't know what you're referring to. Oh, yeah, okay.
Actually, so Leo actually asked a question. Does this class count towards the communication certificate? Communication studies certificate?
I was looking at it. I think they would accept it for the award, which is 10 units, but not the certificate, which is the 16 units formal thing that goes with the record. I know, I was just trying to double check that too, which is a good question. I don't think it does. I'll get back to you if it does, but I don't think it does currently. But the communication award is 10 units, and that is decided by our department. And so I could see that one. I could see the department being like, well, it is a comm course, so maybe. But for the certificate, I don't think it does.
Kendall, you said it's 10 units?
Yes, and so we have a 1-unit listening course that you have to take to get any of those.
That's Comm 6?
Mm-hmm.
So 1 unit plus, so you have to take 3 comm classes and 1 comm 6, which is 1 unit.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm hoping now having this discussion makes you feel like, yeah, I do have skills that I could write on the resume. And that's really the first step of a resume building, is to really just jot down what things do you think you should have on your resume. And then once you figure that out, then it's all wordsmithing. And Debbie is really going to be helpful on that. So let's go back. I'm going to go back to sharing the screen. So just as an overview again, you want a specific objective, the education that you're working on or education you have. Some of you already have degrees. Any academic achievements you have. And then I go down to experience, the work experience that you have, whether it's engineering or non-engineering, and concentrate on those skills that you're building that would help in engineering, and have strong verbs. And I'll show you where that is. And then any skills that you have that you really haven't been able to touch in the experience because you didn't have work experience, then I would put it in this area right here. Okay. And as your experience grows, if you have 2 summers working as an engineering intern, I would move then this experience on up to here and switch the places. Put your experience, because now you have more engineering experience, and then I would put the skills underneath. I'm going to stop sharing for a moment, and I'm going to go back to hang on. I'm going back to the Canvas page now. Actually, maybe I just opened it from Canvas, so I'm sorry. I'm going kind of around about to get this. All right. You probably like the break when a teacher's failing using Canvas or whatever. Okay, so here's the template, and then here are some keywords. So when you look at this, you'll see a lot of verbs, and this has always been helpful for me. And then here's a template of a cover letter. And this was a cover letter I wrote a long time ago. And it's interesting. Just read it for a moment. you could still hear my voice. It's interesting, because when I went to look at some old cover letters, I pulled this one up from 1991. So this is 1 year, a year and a half after I had gotten my master's degree. And look at where I'm applying. I'm applying to work up in Oakland after the 1991 October fire.
I remember that fire.
Yeah, and it was interesting to like pull this up, and we're dealing with all these fires. And back then, that fire was atrocious. 300 homes burned. That was atrocious in 1991. We're way past that. 300 homes isn't even that bad anymore. Just to be an aside from the cover letter, what was really interesting is, let me stop sharing for a minute. In an earthquake, what's the first structural thing that falls down? In your house. Earthquake, what's the first thing that falls down in your house?
Unsecured items.
Okay, unsecured items. Yeah, I guess so. Yeah, sorry. Okay, think of a more drastic earthquake. What's a big thing that structurally
Ceiling?
supposedly? Say it again?
The ceiling?
Okay, the ceiling could. Sorry, I guess I'm not asking a very good question.
Foundation?
No, the foundation's going to stay.
A
I
chimney?
think I heard
The
someone.
chimney.
Yeah.
The chimney, it's made out of brick. And if it was built a long time ago, even though bricks have holes in them, now in an earthquake area, they'll put rebar inside blocks or bricks, right? And fill them with concrete so they stay. But bricks are not very good in tension. So in an earthquake, the first thing that comes down usually is your chimney. Okay, what's the last thing that stays up in a fire?
Your chimney?
Your chimney.
Your chimney.
The chimney. Seen a lot of
chimney.
pictures.
Yeah.
So I remember being up in the Oakland Hills. I did get the job. I was working up in the Oakland Hills, and that's all you could see are chimneys all over the place. Pretty wild. So let's just go back. So this was just, I just happened to pull up this resume, and when I saw that it was the fire, I was like, okay, yeah, let's take a look at that. Okay, where am I going? So, a cover letter is just like any kind of email or any kind of written correspondence or even verbal correspondence. Like, why are you contacting me? Why should I answer you? And then tell them you want to hear back from them, right? So I started finding out. I was down in Ventura at the time, and I wanted to go backpacking through Europe. And so it was December, and I wanted to go backpacking through Europe. So I just wanted to get a 4-month job because I wanted to go in May to Europe. And so I knew I had a 4-month job, and a friend of mine was working up as a geotechnical engineer in Oakland, and she told me about all these houses burned, which means all their foundations were destroyed. I mean, you could still see the concrete, but it was pretty crumbly. It lost all its integrity. So there were all these geotechnical reports that needed to be written by these people who wanted to rebuild. So I thought, okay, this is a possibility of me getting a job for 4 months in helping, one of the geotechnical engineering firms. So when I heard about that, that's what I wrote. And I didn't just write to Alan Kropp. In fact, this isn't the company I work for. I can't ever remember the name of the company. I think it was Subsurface Consultants. But anyway, but there were a number of geotechnical engineering firms in the Oakland, Berkeley area, and I got a list of them all. And at that time, I looked at them in the yellow pages, phone books. Anyway, so I got a name of them and the addresses. So I wrote the first paragraph. And then the second paragraph, I wrote where I was working currently and what I was doing. But then I supplemented that with other jobs that I had. And the fact that I went straight from my bachelor's to my master's, and Hayward Baker was the first company I had a full-time job with. So these other jobs that I had were all part-time jobs I had while I was in school or during January, temporary jobs in the summer and in January. So I really tried hard to get internships as I was going through school. Okay. And then I finish up with something like, I believe that my experience and my educational background would be assets for blah, 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 blah. Right? And then I look forward to hearing from you in the future. So it's a simple, quick cover letter. Why are you contacting them and what are you looking for? And of course, now it's not done in a letter that you mail, right? It's done in an email or a contact through LinkedIn or something else. But, you know, writing cover letters and resumes may be a little bit overwhelming for many of you because we don't particularly like to write. But it's technical writing, which I actually like. It's straight and to the point, lots of bullets. It's organized. I mean, I like organization, and it's not flowery, you're not writing it creatively or so. Anyway, so that's kind of what I wanted to kind of just speak to you, and hopefully you're all. I'm leaving you all with the feeling that, yeah, resume, I could do this, even if I haven't worked as an engineer before. I already have a ton of skills. Okay, so what are some last questions before I take off?
I have just a little, if the students mostly have coursework and not much experience, would they create maybe a section in the skills that says relevant coursework? Or would you think it's better to put the skills that they're learning in those courses?
Yeah, I think maybe Carl and I should talk about it. I think first the skill set you're getting from a class. I think the only thing that it tells the reader when you list the courses is what year you are in school, whether you're a freshman or a sophomore. And everyone, if you're a freshman mechanical, you all have the same classes. Sophomore mechanical, you all have the same classes. I would gear towards the skills and not the lists. But Carl, what do you think?
I would do that, and I would do it. I would definitely focus on skills and not courses. And I would do that because you have to realize, like, academia kind of glorifies this certain elite class of students. And most of the people that work in the world were never considered those elite class of students. And so a lot of times they'll say, you know, when I really learned is when I left school. You know, what makes me a great engineer is all my experience. So I would say I wouldn't try to focus, unless you really are a completely elite student, I wouldn't try to focus on that, because I think that doesn't always resonate with the people that you're trying to get hired by. Because they, you know, like, I don't know what the statistics are, but most engineers, there are a lot of engineers out there that were B students, you know, or got C's here and there. And so they're going to connect with you through your ability to do things. And the only other thing I would say, and this is maybe not resume advice, is more as like internship advice, is that you always want to think, like, if someone gives me an hour, I want to give them 7 back. You know, like, you want to make sure the ratio of what someone's giving you in this opportunity, you are giving back. And I'm just making that number up because of an 8-hour day, you know, because you don't want to be someone that's just seen, or like, it's not even about being seen. It's like, you don't want to have a role reversal. You know, you are there to help them, and your ability to help is when people are like, that was awesome. You know, I showed you this thing and then you did it. And so be a little bit brave in that, and think about all those experiences where, because there was kind of a side conversation going on in the chat around video games and stuff. And I mean, I think that there are, like, I wouldn't be able to do it because I don't really know how to evaluate like the elite class of video game players. But I know that when my son went to an interview, it was a really weird interview. They brought 30 people in for a whole day, and they put them in a room together and had them go through these exercises. And by the end of the day, they took a team of those people and said, you guys know how to work together. And they gave them all jobs. And part of that had to do with those social things of being able to, you know, talk to people and find rapport. And, it's okay to find rapport in your entertainment life, you know. And I remember another instance where I think it was League of Legends. You know, Malachi worked really, really, really hard to get to a really elite level of that game. And it showed dedication, because if you're split between a bunch of different games, you can't do that. You know, you can't be an elite class person if you are focused. And so there are ways to leverage that. Maybe not so much in a resume, like I was an elite class player, but know that you have it. Like, know that you have that ability to put all that effort into becoming an expert at something. And it has paid off. It has paid off for him.
I have a silly story about that. When I interviewed for Cruise.io, the guy interviewing me, he had his laptop up in front of him. And on the back of his laptop, he had a sticker from a very obscure, strange video game. It was called Earthbound, if you know it. And I was like, oh, cool, Earthbound. And I think that's why I got the job. Like, he just thought it was cool. And he just like, oh, wow, this guy knows that weird game. And like, we had a rapport. So like you're talking about, like, just the hobbies actually matter a lot, like just so that you would get along. So you have something to talk about. And so I just like knowing that obscure thing got me like in the door, I guess.
I saw in the chat, somebody asked